All right, welcome in. If you're just joining us, this is David and Matt. We're here to talk quick flips for Alex Bregman signing a 5-year, $175 million deal with the Chicago Cubs. This broke, Matt, a couple days ago on Saturday night um, during the Chicago Bears game.
Yeah,
And as soon
that
as
was
this
funny.
signing broke, the Bears went from down 21-3
Yeah.
to winning the game 31-27. Now, I am not a Bears fan or nor a Packers fan. I know you aren't either, but I found that to be just a beautiful encapsulation of what this signing meant for the city of Chicago.
Yeah, that was pretty
Um,
crazy. I couldn't believe the coincidence there with the all of a sudden the Bears were just getting absolutely torched, and then just suddenly they flip it on a dime right after the Bregman news drops. It was crazy.
I know
So
it was beautiful. I was watching a movie. I was going to watch the Bears game, but
yeah,
we
I
were
was
uh,
I was
distracted
definitely
for sure.
definitely watching the Bears game. So
Right. So,
but,
an intriguing thought here as we move to the actual deal itself. Alex Bregman is um, maybe he's kind of on a Hall of Fame type path in terms of wins above replacement. He's at 43 on
yeah,
both Baseball Reference and Fangraphs. He's going to need to, have a couple more 3-4 WAR seasons to get up to that 50 threshold. But this is a guy who's won a couple championships with Houston. He's been very lauded as a clubhouse leader. Um, the fight for this contract came down to the Cubs and the Red Sox. Those two teams were the ones that were kind of inviting Alex Bregman and trying to figure out who was going to sign him. And ultimately, Jed Hoyer drops down a gigantic contract, as we mentioned, 5 years, $175 million. I love this deal as long as the Cubs roster remains the same, if that makes sense. We'll get into why in a little bit, but for starters, I mean, I think the fit is great for the Cubs. I think they needed another bat and another leader in the locker room, in the clubhouse. I felt like that was kind of the obvious weak point. So, what do you think, Matt?
yeah. So I think it's a good signing. I mean, it's one of those things where once you start getting into that threshold of like, let's just say 35 million AAV, some of the money's deferred, so it's knocked down to like for luxury tax purposes to like 31 or 32. I think when you start getting into that 30 million plus range for AAV, my opinion is if I'm a fan of that team, not my money, right? Like
Right.
somebody else's money that they're spending. Um,
Yep.
so kind of where I look at it is Alex Bregman's a great addition for the Cubs. Alex Bregman's a very good player. He's going to be a consistent 110 to 130 WRC plus type guy. I don't think he's going to repeat his like 2018, 2019 output when he was in Houston,
Mhm.
hitting at the Crawford boxes, playing with some trash can banging going on in the background. Like, I mean, there was a lot of reasons for him putting up like, I mean, he should have won the 2019 MVP. Like Mike Trout had a phenomenal year, and in retrospect, I'm glad Mike Trout won it because we like Mike Trout. But I mean, Alex Bregman's numbers
Mhm.
for the season, when you take in his entire value he had, were clearly better. So he should have won that MVP award. But um, looking at the last 4 or 5 years, he's not quite as good as he was then for the Astros. But here's what Alex Bregman is. He's a very high floor player. He
Mhm.
doesn't strike out. He walks, and he also plays good defense. And he's not going to kill. He's not a great base runner, but he's not going to kill you on the base paths. It's not like you're putting like I don't know, like some catcher out there running the bases, or like a Rafael Devers or something out there on the bases who's just going to kill you. Like he's not bad at that. He's good defender, good at the plate. He's not his Statcast numbers are pretty average across the board when it comes to his batted ball profile, but his plate discipline numbers are elite.
Yeah.
And one thing he does, and we've talked about this on the show before with him, is pulls the ball. He pulls the ball and he hits the ball in the air,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that's going to lead to some streaky play at Wrigley because of the the wind being in, wind being out. But at the same time, like this is a player who's going to hit some home runs just because he hits the ball pull side in the air, and anybody who does
Right.
that's going to hit some home runs. So I think it's good. It's big money. As you mentioned, David, I think that's what we'll get into next. Is this is a 5-year deal for a 32-year-old third baseman who is still really good, but he's not. He was injured a pretty good bit in 2025. He was injured a little bit in 2024 as well, and he's you wonder how his profile is going to age. I mean, there's a world where his batted ball profile continues to drop off, and you look up in 2 years, and you're like, oh boy. But I don't think it's going to be one of these like he's going to be worth -2 WAR a year disaster contracts. Even if that happens, it's going to be something like a league average bat 2 WAR type guy, not a total
Mm-hmm.
disaster. So, the question for me is going to be how does this limit them going forward in ability to retain players that they have on their roster, or to add additional players? Because I think the Cubs are a good baseball team right now, but I don't think they're on the same level as 3 or 4 other teams in the National League at this point. Like they're close with a couple of them, but I don't know that
Mm-hmm.
they're not this team. But anything can happen in baseball, but this team isn't a team that I would consider like an equal to the Dodgers right now.
I don't think anybody's equal to the Dodgers.
Right, but or even close to it. Like
I think the goal is to be the best team in the NL Central and then see what happens in the
fair.
playoffs. And I think this move in particular has driven the Cubs up to best team in the NL Central on paper for 2026. I think they had that going into last season as well, and the Brewers came out of nowhere. But on paper, this is the move that shoves them over the Brewers, in my opinion. I think before this, even when we were talking about Edward Cabrera, I would have been a little hesitant. I would have said, well, they need another bat, right? They had Kyle Tucker, and that wasn't enough. But you'd have to think maybe someday the Brewers don't have just a bunch of guys going crazy that aren't very good. You know what I mean? But I really like the signing, as you mentioned. I think you mentioned the skills, the contact rate skills. They've been the same over the last 4 years for Alex Bregman. He's just a guy that he makes great swing decisions. And I was very big on Bo Bichette as well. I'm already a Bo Bichette fan. I was kind of harping for that signing as opposed to Bregman. Bo Bichette does not make
see. Yeah, it looks like we lost David here. But I think kind of just what he was gonna say is like the Cubs still do need to replace some production from Kyle Tucker, and right now it's looking like they've got some good players that they brought in. Bregman's gonna help, but you're not you're not doing a 1-for-1 here, and you're gonna have to add some additional pieces. And if you add those pieces here, David is back now. So
I don't want to tell you. Knocked me off, but I will say I love this deal for a variety of factors. You mentioned aging. I do think that's a worthy point to mention, that we're going to see Bregman get older, right? But I think he has a lot stronger chance to age like a Justin Turner, where the swing decisions and the pull side power, which you mentioned at Wrigley, is a little bit risky, but I think that left center field gap that the basket and it's like 370 there, and he hits a lot of balls there anyway. I think that's the path for him to generate power. You just pepper that left center field wall. Cubs just don't have a whole lot of righty hitters that like to do that. The guys that they have is like Dansby Swanson, Nico Horner. Nico's more of a line drive guy. Dansby, he hits it there, but he doesn't quite have the power to yank it, all the way out. He gets a lot of center field flyouts. I think Bregman has the ability to kind of split that gap and be a really, really quality like doubles hitter. You mentioned, I think we're going to talk about the Red Sox here in a second, but he was playing at Fenway. He did not play particularly well at Fenway because while he was a fly ball hitter, he hit a lot of balls to that left center field gap that banged off the monster for a single or got caught where it starts to get really deep. I think at Wrigley Field that'll fit him a lot better. He's just going to spray that left center field gap with a ton of line drives and a ton of fly balls, and that'll over the next couple of years, and that'll allow him to age very gracefully. Where not to mention you've got a bunch of really high quality players on this Cubs team under contract for a few years. You mentioned I think whether or not the Cubs are going to be able to make more moves. I think the team should be about done for 2026. Now, in 2027 and beyond, they have like 10 free agents leaving the team next year. I won't list them all off. Money should be there, right? I think $35 million over 5 years isn't going to break the bank. Now, you sign another big deal, and if they all go sour all at the same time, there's not much you can do about that. But I think the money should be fine. I think overall this deal is just a great fit for the Cubs. And then on top of the obvious baseball skills, the leadership qualities that are constantly being harped on by this group for Alex Bregman is that's going to, I think, elevate this deal from good to great, where he can kind of step in and be a leader. I think a lot of folks didn't like Kyle Tucker's kind of style, where he's more of a show up and play, kind of like an Anthony Rendon before the injuries and stuff. We show up and play. Baseball is just kind of my job. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be good at it. But Alex Bregman's kind of the baseball rat. There's a bunch of stories out of Boston about him like helping Boston teammates win games because of what he sees on the baseball field and stuff. So he's also already been to a Chicago Blackhawks game. Like he's already embracing it. Like this is just going to be an easy guy to root for, I think, for us Cubs fans.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, I think that is a good point with Bregman. He's been on a lot of winning teams. He'll be a good clubhouse guy there. I guess we can move on and just talk briefly about the Red Sox and where this leaves them. This leaves them in a little bit of a tough spot. Their infield right now is they got Trevor Story set to play shortstop, and I think the Trevor Story thing's been pretty well chronicled over the last couple of years. He's not the same player he was in Colorado. He's still a serviceable big leaguer. He's fine, but he's not some kind of he's not going to come out and give you a 4 or 5 WAR season. He's just kind of a placeholder there for now until his contract runs out. But, there are other options right now on the infield appear to be like Marcelo Mayer, Romy Gonzalez, and then Christian Campbell, who had a disappointing year last year as a rookie, but, was also like a top prospect when he was starting out. And they also have a guy in Double-A, Franklin Arias, who's a top 25 prospect. So I don't know if he'll play a factor this year, but he's only 20, but they do have a good high level prospect there. But Bregman and then today's move was another third base move with Nolan Arenado going to the Diamondbacks. We probably won't do a quick flip for that just because of Nolan Arenado is not what he used to be. If this was 5 years ago, then that would have been a full podcast level quick flip, but it wouldn't be so quick. But he's I think that if you look at the Red Sox, they need a third baseman, and now Bregman's off the market, so they're going to have to bank on Eugenio Suarez, I think. I mean, there's not a lot out there to play third base. Either that, or they're going to have to trade for somebody, or find somebody that's somebody to play second base, and then just kind of have third base be your weak platoon, where you might hit on a prospect like Mayer or Campbell at some point. Like, this is not looking great for the Red Sox, who don't have a tremendous lineup at this point.
What's really funny is, the Red Sox had a third baseman under contract, right? And he wasn't a great defender at third base or anything, but I feel like Rafael Devers probably could have played there a couple more seasons, right? And even with the bad defense, I think that probably would have been okay, especially if you're going to make him happy and appease him.
Yeah.
And that I think this whole saga could have been avoided for the Red Sox. I feel like the situation they're in now, they have no Alex Bregman, who they irritated Devers for initially by signing. And it was like, well, Bregman will be there for a few years, right? Bregman will be
Yeah.
around for a while.
Yeah,
So we
I'll
don't
say,
mind displacing Devers, and that became a whole thing that now got, Devers is in San Francisco.
yeah, I will say about Devers that I think that there's a lot of underlying that was going on there that nobody really knows about. And I mean, you think about it, they immediately started winning after they moved him. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
they moved him and then they immediately turned their season around. So there was a big distraction, and I don't know if it was fully self-inflicted by the Red Sox, but I think Devers has some issues too in the clubhouse that
Maybe.
was a problem. That was, I mean, I understand if you have a clubhouse problem and you feel like it's not going to get better, I understand moving from that guy, even if he is a great player. That's just it's not like you're moving him because you're trying to sell off your pieces because you want to save money or because you feel like you need to rebuild or something. It's more of a, we don't like this guy. So, I get that, but yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, they did have a franchise cornerstone third base type in Devers who probably wouldn't play third base, but either way, I mean, they need bats. Like, they probably could have used that money that they added with Wilson Contreras and traded for somebody else, or maybe paid a little bit more for Bregman. Like, there's a lot of things they could have done differently here, if they had Devers. But I think, it is what it is for them. They made that trade. They got to move on. And I think the only option for them, if they want to upgrade at third base right now, or at least have a proven third baseman, is going to be Eugenio Suarez. And he's still out there. And there's a lot of teams out there that need third base. So, we'll see what happens. But
I think the final point on this Red Sox situation in particular is that they offered 5 for 165. For Bregman, did not offer the no trade clause. The Cubs obviously tossed in a no trade clause. My thing is, who's trading for 36-year-old Alex Bregman on 35 or 2 years, $70 million contract?
Yeah.
Nobody's trading for that. So that seems like a no-brainer to me, right? You're planning on that guy being in your clubhouse for the next 5 seasons. Why wouldn't you offer that extra level of security, that extra layer to assist Alex Bregman with making that transition to the long-term contract? It's an obvious thing. So you're not going to be able to move that deal anyway.
The only thing I can think of is that, they're worried about his aging and they could salary dump him with prospects to get rid. But that becomes one of those things, right? It's not my money. So, I don't. If it was my money, I might feel differently about it. But that not knowing the team's finances plays a big part of not knowing what to think about that. But yeah, you're right. The no trade clause. I mean, you fully expect Bregman to be around for the duration of this contract. It's a 5-year deal. It's not like this is some 12-year deal or something.
Right. Now that those two things being the sticking points, 10 million and a no trade clause. I mean, that feels like a fumble. Feels like a fumble from the Boston Red Sox, and the Cubs scooped it up, took it to the house. I love it. We kind of end with a football reference because the signing galvanized the Bears to the win. So there you go.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on this? I mean, I'm really excited. I can't wait to. I think he's probably going to be number 3. He was wearing a number 3 Blackhawks jersey. That's going to be cool. Any final thoughts?
I don't think so. I think it's an exciting thing for the Cubs. It's going to be interesting to see if they do make any other moves the rest of the offseason.
You know what? We do have one more thing. I wanted to get us out of here quick, but we do have one more thing. So the natural progression with this deal, Bregman joining in, is that the Cubs had Matt Shaw at third base. He was a rookie candidate last year, really, really good. 3 baseball reference WAR, had a 130 WRC plus in the second half. Matt Shaw will now kind of transition to my thought would be to a utility role spot, the kind of bench role where he'll let Alex Bregman, Nico Horner, Dansby Swanson all take time off. The natural, obvious thing, though, that's happening is that other teams are calling in about Matt Shaw and Nico Horner. Jeff Passan tweeted today a rumor. And I want to note that it was a rumor because Jeff Passan never tweets rumors.
Yeah, he does.
So that's a very odd set of notes that the San Francisco Giants in particular were targeting Nico Horner and Brendan Donovan. If Donovan is the second baseman for the Cardinals, I don't believe the Cubs should trade Nico Horner. I don't believe they should trade Matt Shaw either. I think they should just go into the season with this team. It feels like a good team right now. Maybe, tack on a few extra guys here and there on the fringes of the roster, but go in with this team. It feels like a good team. Don't mess with it. But it seems like the calls are getting very significant. They're going to have to get a haul to be interested in moving off either guy. So do you think the Cubs could move on from Nico Horner or Matt Shaw, or should they just stand pat?
I think you largely stand pat, although I would potentially move on from one of those guys for a high-end starting pitcher if you can get one, or a mid-tier, like a three starter type, because you feel good about what you've added in Cabrera and Edward Cabrera. Matthew Boyd is a good pitcher, but Matthew Boyd, he's doesn't have a long track record of success. He's 35 years old. Like he was good last year, but it's not something where you can just bank on him being great. And then, Cade Horton had a great couple of months last year, but he's still really young. You don't know how he's going to hold up over a full season. So there's still some question marks with this rotation. I think the rotation is going to be good. It's got a very high upside with those guys. But, there's a little bit of, continuing to add to that, adding some depth, adding an innings eater really is kind of my thought.
I completely disagree. There's too many cooks in the kitchen there. They have about 7 guys that could start games for the team right now. And Justin Steele's coming back from injury. Shota Imanaga and Jameson Taillon are going to be those guys for you that are going to eat innings and stuff. I think you're either going to hunt for the gigantic name in starting pitching, like you mentioned. Joe Ryan just got pulled off of Twins Con for whatever it's worth. I don't think this is
when I say maybe not, like I'm talking about, like there's probably not a Garrett Crochet, Tarek Skubal out there this year that you're going to be able to trade for, but like a Joe Ryan being like a number 2 that's going to add some upside. He'd probably make your first start in a playoff series.
Right. Yeah. Joe Ryan would be real interesting on that line of, and I would probably only be able to move Matt Shaw for him, but at that point, maybe you can sign Nico Horner to an extension.
Yeah.
I don't know what the deal is. It seems like if Jeff Passan is tweeting about Nico Horner rumors, that does mean that there's some smoke. There's a fire underneath that smoke. I wouldn't necessarily bank on anything happening because I think the Cubs are going to have to get absolutely blown away. But it's certainly a thought. If you keep one of those guys, run him out at second base. I think Nico Horner is about as important to the clubhouse as Dansby Swanson, as some of these other guys, Ian Happ. If you want to win in 2026, I think Nico Horner needs to be on the team. But if you get the Kyle Tucker package, that's what I've kind of been saying, right? I think they had a very similar overall WAR, and you could maybe finagle it a little bit, but a major league regular, a top 50 prospect, and some pitching depth as the package. If you could get that for Nico Horner, I mean, I at least have to think about it. I at least have to talk about it.
Yeah.
So do they get exactly that? Maybe not, but.
Yeah, and I guess my last, I see in the comments here that they're talking about Yordan Alvarez. I guess one thing that you could also add is just an absolute masher that you don't care about where they play defensively, because right now you're kind of counting on Moises Ballesteros being your DH or rotating guys around at DH and everything. And, if you bring in it doesn't have to be a guy who's going to DH. It could be like somebody to play first base that Michael Busch DHs or something along those lines. I think that that's something that you could look at as well, and that maybe you could trade a Nico Horner for just a high quality bat. It's a DH type, first base DH type that, Nico doesn't have a lot of time left on his contract. He's a rental. You could probably get somebody with low positional value that's pretty good for him, and make sure that kind of shore up that spot in your lineup, because DH is not the most important spot out there, but you can't have somebody out there like if Moises Ballesteros busts this year, you're going to be running out of 100 WRC plus DH. It's going to be a negative WAR player, and you probably not want that. So
I will say, the Cubs are uniquely positioned in this sense because they do have really good hitting prospects at the AAA level still. And Jonathan Long, he could theoretically come up in DH. I really like the signing of Tyler Austin. That's something I don't think we've even really covered, but he's a 34-year-old former Yankees prospect.
A couple weeks ago on the pod.
Right. Tyler Austin's a really interesting guy. I think he'll probably DH. He and Ballesteros can kind of platoon really at DH, and that may just be the solution there. unless like we've mentioned Jordan's maybe just like the caliber of hitter it would have to be. Man, I really like the idea of keeping Nico Horner and just hanging on and seeing what happens. Because you know what? Maybe the deadline, Matt Shaw's performed really well on the bench.
Yeah.
And then, you can now say, hey, we've got a starter sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
Detroit's in the gutter. Give me Terry Skubal for the stretch run. Something to that effect. Fire things up. I like it. But I would hold right now is my preference. Go into the season with this team. I think it looks really good. Yeah. Like you mentioned, it's not the Dodgers. If the Phillies, add another pitcher, it's probably not the Phillies. If the Mets add Tucker, it's probably not the Mets. But
I think they're better than the Mets.
I
don't think the Mets are very good.
Right. The Mets need a Tucker, right? And they need pitching.
Mets need everything.
The Cubs feel like a very sound contender now. I don't want to go and bust up the core of the players that I'm confident in. I'm very confident in Nico Horner. I'm honestly confident in Matt Shaw being a good player. Trying to offload that for anything less than premium top of the line names, we've talked about a couple of them, would be a mistake in my opinion.
Yeah.
So we'll go from there. We'll close it out. It's a little bit longer than a quick flips, but we did have a Jeff Passan. Jeff Passan never tweets a rumor. That was weird. And I wonder, I think that might be a Buster Posey thing. Maybe Jeff Passan, Buster Posey are close. It might be what it is. I'm not sure, but I think if I had to predict, I think that's a little pressure on the Cardinals to get Brendan Donovan out for, some price that's a little higher than what it's a little lower than what the Giants are currently asking.
Yeah.
That would be my suggestion. But yeah, we'll see what happens. So we'll see you guys later. Please do remember to like, comment, subscribe. We'll have our main show back next Monday. And if anything big drops, if Kyle Tucker does sign this week, we'll be back to cover that one as well. So tune in next time for the Bat Flip podcast. We're signing off. Thanks, everybody.